student who is your friend and he wished to study in India, better direct him to us, then we can help. Before we go to the courses, I mean the course of today, guys kindly allows me to talk a little bit about class. I hope everyone can see my screen. Yes. When we talk, we say Pragati exam. Pragati, it is performance rating of applicants through global aptitude test for Indian institutions. In abbreviation, it is called Pragati. Formerly known as an Indian scholastic assessment or Indi assessment, it is a standardized online exam for the student seeking a scholarship under Study in India program. This exam is conducted to evaluate the capacity and the capability and the diligence of the students applying to pursue higher education in India. The score obtained by the candidate in Pragati exam serve as criteria to shortlist the meritorious students for the allocation of the Study in India scholarship. The medium of the paper would be English. Coming to the syllabus, the section wise detailed syllabus for Pragati examination is described in the details below. Verbal reasoning, which include reading comprehensions, filling the brackets, grammar, paragraph, comparison of the inferences, parajabbers, analogies, antonyms, synonyms, one-word substitutions, sentence collection, idioms, and phrases. Coming to quantitative aptitude, there is algebra, averages, equations, linear quadratic geometry, highest common factor, and the lowest common multiple, number system, partnerships, percentages, progressions, arithmetics, geometry, profit and loss, ratio and proportions, time, speed, distance, work and time, as well as the interest. The third part is logical reasoning. In logical reasoning, we will be finding seating arrangement, blood relationship, direction of sense or direction sense, series, sequencing, syllogism, Venn diagram, ranking, puzzles, coding, decoding, and there is a summary of pattern which I explained above. The mode of examination will be conducted online. Duration of exam is 90 minutes. Here, objective of the types of questions, it is objective multiple choice, and the medium of paper, it is in English. Coming to the marks, verbal part, which is containing the English grammar and everything related to the English, will be 40 marks. Quantitative part, which will be including the mathematics part, will be 25 marks. Coming to the logical, which will be including the reasoning, will be 25 marks. Then the total marks, it is 90 marks. Correct answer, it is 1 mark. Wrong answer, it is 0. And unattempted question, it is 0. I wish everyone will stay and do the paper all 90 questions in 90 minutes. Anyone has doubt regarding to this introduction? Anyone has doubt? If you have doubt regarding to the introduction, please, you can raise your hand. Well, if there is no doubt, then we are going to welcome a teacher. We are going to start from verbal part. Then the teacher will explain each and everything from the verbal. Therefore, after verbal part, we will see the next part in other classes. Thank you. Kindly, I request each and everyone to mute his mic, and so we can conduct the course in peace.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to discuss the English section of TCS Smart All India Mock 1. The aim is basically to give you a strategy of how to answer the section and also to discuss in detail the solutions to each of the questions that have appeared on the test. Without further ado, let's get started. I am Dr. Untitled. I'm a senior expert in verbal level at Condira Online. If you have any questions about any of these questions, you can always post them as comments below the video, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you with answers. All right, let's get into the presentation now. Okay, let's look at question 1. This is a grammar question, as you can see, and it's broken down into 4 parts, actually 5 parts. And it says, in this question, a sentence has been divided into several parts. One of these parts has an error. Choose the option that has the part of the sentence with the error. So the aim is to identify that part which has the error. It's very important that you read the instructions for all the questions on verbal ability, because unlike in math or other areas, there is a whole lot of question types we have on verbal ability. So please do not ever answer a question, even if it looks familiar, without reading the instructions. Let's get started. So it says, I need a paper to write down the details that I've managed to get. 4 options, so we have to focus only on the parts the sentence is broken down into. I need a paper to write down the details that I've managed to get. So if you see, I need, I subject to the sentence, need is the verb, we know need agrees with I, so it doesn't seem to have an error in that part. A paper, this is where we need to focus, because paper is a material noun. Just like your gold. So you cannot say I need a gold, right? There are several material nouns that do not basically have singular forms. So when you look at different material nouns, let's say copper, silver, etc. So you do not say I have a silver or I have a gold. With soap as well, but nowadays when you say a soap, it refers to a bar of soap. Some things are understood. When you say a coffee, it means a cup of coffee. That as well is understood. Like that, you cannot say a paper. You can say a sheet of paper, or you can say a piece of paper, so on. So a paper doesn't make sense, but you can say a newspaper. That's fine, because here the reference is to the set of the set of sheets that arrive as one newspaper. However, we do not have a paper because paper is a material noun. You have to use it with a unit of measurement. It can be a sheet of paper, a piece of paper, or a full set, basically, any of these things. So do not ever say a paper. You can say a sheet. I need a sheet to write the details on, right? Back to the presentation. So that part is definitely erroneous. So I need a paper is incorrect. Your answer should be option B. Sorry. Your answer should be option B. To write down the details that I've managed to get. Write down is a decent phrasal verb, the details that I've managed to get. Everything else looks okay, so your answer should be option B. Let's go forward. Let's look at the next question. Last night, the principal of the school took us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steal the school bell. So last night is an important indicator, if you see. This as well is a sentence, an error identification question type. So here as well, the sentence is being divided into several parts. You have to identify the part with the error. So the principal of the school took us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steals the school bell. See, the entire action was in the past tense. So when you have a sudden shift in tense, you have to be careful. The principal of the school took past tense us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steals the school bell. So this also happened in the past. So when you have two actions in the past, the action that happened earlier should usually be reported in the past tense, the past perfect tense. So you say, who had stolen the school bell, because this happened even before the principal's action of taking you there, right? So when you have a verb that is in a different tense from the rest of the sentence, it basically calls for more attention to make sure you haven't missed the sequence of tenses, right? So your answer should be option D here. I believe that's clear. However, there are such special cases in which you do not, there is a definite shift in verbs. It happens especially when you have things like universal truth. So you say, my teacher said that the earth revolves around the sun. It is a universal truth. You do not say the earth revolved around the sun, because even now it's revolving. So when your teacher made a statement, even when you are making the statement to someone else, it's still a continuous action. Therefore, it should be reported in the simple present because it's a universal truth. There are exceptions, but barring exceptions, usually when you have a sudden change in the tense, the sentence, the meaning of the sentence tells you that it's in the past tense. However, you have one or more verbs in the present tense, or any other tense for that matter. You have to be careful about possible errors. Let's look at the next question here. Despite a sustained and renewed efforts by the country since its independence from colonial rule, poverty is still rampant in India. So despite of is an erroneous usage. You can say in spite of, where in spite and of are three separate words, or you can simply use despite. Despite sustained and renewed efforts by the country, since its independence from colonial rule, poverty is still rampant in India. Despite of is erroneous usage. You either say despite or in spite of. So there's no despite of, right? Clearly, it is option one. So there are certain connectors like these which tend to have multiple words in them, and you have to be careful about how to use them. These are called multi-word prepositions. So when you look at things like as much as, or notwithstanding, which is one word, or in as much as, so on, or by dint of, due to, etc., you have to be careful of their structure. So there's no despite of, right? It should be despite directly. Therefore, there is an error. So some errors pretty easy. So if you ask me, this question is an easy question type if you've used despite before. But the only source of confusion here is your ability to distinguish between in spite of and despite. Let's go to the next question. Are bananas in the shop sold by kilo or by the dozen? So are, bananas is the plural, so are tells you that there is a plural word, right next to it is fine. In this shop sold by kilo or by the dozen. So you're asking a question, and there are two things here. on either side of or. You have to make sure they're parallel in one way. Besides, when you use by to indicate the unit of measurement, it always takes a the, by the kilo or by the dozen. This is a slightly old-fashioned usage, but it is still considered very formal. So you should use by the kilo. You can say by the dozen, you can say by the gram, you can say by any unit for that matter, by the any unit for that matter. By can also be used with duration, with times of the day, or by the night. You can say things like owls hunt by the night, etc. By has several meanings. Prepositions are pretty versatile. So a good thing for you to do would be to prepare a list of common prepositions and look at them at dictionary entries. The dictionary gives you the entire list of uses. So if you take by, for example, you talk about you swear by someone, then you can say you live by a place, like you can say things like he lives by the seashore, so on. So you have so many uses of by, in, to, etc. Some of them slightly unconventional, slightly old-fashioned, traditional, that they've fallen out of use, but they can still appear on the tests. That's why we need by the kilo, right? Let's look at the next one. He's a smart boy, but he's not clever to solve this problem enough. If you look at the instructions, it says the sentence has a phrase or a part highlighted. Choose the most appropriate replacement for the phrase or part from the options given. So the part that's highlighted is this: not clever to solve this problem enough. So this enough is a very peculiar adverb in terms of the position that it takes. So you can say something is not enough when it is used as when it is used probably in that sense, but when in that fashion. When you talk about enough being an adverb, it always comes immediately after the adjective, not before. For example, look at this. He is very clever. But you do not say he is enough clever. You say he is clever enough. In terms of the position, enough is a pretty peculiar adverb. So you cannot say he's enough clever. You should say he's clever enough, especially as an adverb. Or he's not clever enough. So he's a smart boy, but he's not clever enough should be the right way of paraphrasing this. Let's see. Option 1 says clever not enough. That's incorrect. Not clever enough seems to be fine. Not clever enough, this problem to solve is wrong. To solve this problem is okay. Not enough clever. Enough comes before the adjective, clever. So this is one particular adverb which comes after clever. This as well makes this wrong. So your answer should be option 2. So clever, as I told you, is a peculiar adverb. While all the other adverbs which qualify adjectives come before them, it is enough has this very special property that it comes immediately after. Okay, let's go forward. There is another such adjective. I don't know if you've come across this adjective called galore. Galore means a lot. So they say there are problems galore, meaning a lot of. This is an adjective. There are problems galore. You do not say there are galore problems. There are galore problems. Problems galore, meaning there are lots of such problems. Let's look at the next question. If she knew it beforehand, she would have been more cautious. Again here, same instruction, same set of instructions. A part has been underlined. We have to identify the best replacement for it. So this is essentially, this tests your knowledge of conditionals. Whenever you have an if clause followed by a result clause, you should be able to immediately conclude that this tests your knowledge of conditionals. Let's briefly review conditionals before we look at the question. So conditionals essentially in English are of 4 kinds. We have the zero conditional, the first, the second, and the third conditionals. However, let's not discuss the zero conditional today. Let's discuss only the first, second, and the third because they are pretty common as questions on your campus recruitment tests. So the first conditional is something which we use day in and day out. It talks about what is likely to happen if if a result which leads to it happens. So if it rains, we will not play the match, or we shall not play the match. Look at that. If it rains, so you're talking about something that is likely to happen, all right? The second conditional is used to talk about the imaginary present. There is no equivalent in Indian languages to the imaginary present conditional, so you have to be super careful with it. In that, the if clause takes the simple past. So there are situations like, imagine, if I were in Delhi, or if it rained, which means right now it's not raining. What it means is, imagine a present in which it was raining, something like this. If I had long hair, I do not have long hair now, but I'm talking about an imaginary present, right? If I wore white, I'm not wearing white, I'm wearing black, but if I wore white, I would not be visible because the screen behind me is white. So anything that is not true in the present, but as an extrapolation, as a hypothesis, when you want to put it forward, an imaginary present, an unlikely present, we use that. Then we have the unfulfilled past, something that never happened in the past, but you're just theorizing what would have happened if only it had happened. That is the third conditional. So this question draws your attention to the usage of the third conditional. She would have been more cautious tells you that she wasn't more cautious, that she wasn't more cautious, and she would have been more cautious means she wasn't. If only this condition had been fulfilled, this would have happened. So if she knew it beforehand, should be if she had known. We use the past perfect here to talk about a past action, a past condition that was never fulfilled. So your answer is option 3. Only 3 conditionals are usually tested on the examination, so it shouldn't be a big deal for you. You can just look at the syntax of all the 3 and then get them right. Let's look at the 7th question. The woman to who I sold my house was a doctor. So you have to identify the grammatically correct one from the list here. The woman to who I sold my house was a doctor. The woman that I sell my house was a doctor. The woman to whom I sold my house was a doctor. The woman who the house I sold to was a doctor. Now look at all of these. If you are a pretty fluent speaker in English, it shouldn't be very difficult for you to identify the answer. But let's look at the rules and grammar as well. To is a preposition. After a preposition, you usually have the objective cases. So you do not say, he gave the pen to I, you say he gave the pen to me. So after to, what you need is usually the objective case of the relative pronoun. Who is the subjective case? It acts as the subject. Whom is the objective case? And whose is the possessive or the genitive. Objective is also called the accusative, sometimes the predicative. Who is called the subjective or the nominative, and whose is the possessive. So we take we take the objective case here because the woman to whom I sold my house. Or when you're in doubt, try to make a sentence out of the relative clause, just the relative clause there. I sold my house to a woman. So it should be, I sold my house to him or to her, right? You do not say, I sold my house to he. Therefore, it should be, I sold my house to her, and she is a doctor. If you were to make sentences out of it, you do not say, I sold my house to she. I sold my house to her. Therefore, you need a whom there. Okay. Look at the second and the fourth one. The first one is therefore wrong. The third seems to be correct. Let's look at the second one. The woman that I sell my house was a doctor. The simple present tense tells you that it is a continuous action in a way. It happens. It's a regular action. So you don't keep selling your house every day. That rules this out. The woman who the house I sold to was a doctor is unnecessarily twisted. It basically violates the simple word order in English, the general word order followed in English. So the answer is option 3. Let's look at the 8th question. The population of New Delhi is more than other cities in India. Whenever you have comparisons, is more than. Make sure what is on one side is the same in its grammatical form to the other side. So you're saying the population of New Delhi should be compared to the population of other cities, not other cities. You can say New Delhi is more populous than other cities. That's fine, because you're comparing New Delhi itself to other cities. New Delhi is more populous than other cities. That's fine, because city to city comparison is okay. But the population of New Delhi is more than other cities in India is incorrect. The population of Delhi is more than that of, meaning the population of, that refers to the population. Population of any other city in India seems to be okay. If you look at the third one, more, greater is the double comparative. ER itself is the comparative degree, so more, greater makes a double comparative and hence incorrect. The population of Delhi is much greater than those of any other cities. And those is used only when you have a plural. So you can say something like, the roads of New Delhi are much cleaner than those of any other city. Fine, because roads is plural, you can use those. But here, we're talking about something that is uncountable. Population, all uncountable nouns are treated as singulars. Therefore, the population of New Delhi is much greater than that of any other city in India. Is fine. Okay. So, the population of India is more than that of any other city in India is the right expression. So this is a pretty simple comparison question, not a tough grammar one. So you should be able to get this right. Let's look at the next question. Their streets are too narrow, so no parking of cars are allowed on both sides of the road. This is another question type in which a part of the sentence is underlined and you have to identify the right replacement for it. So if you see, if you look at the options, you have are allowed and is allowed. First, we have to decide if it is are allowed or is allowed. You use are allowed when the subject is plural, because are is a plural verb. So if you ask a question, what is allowed or what is not allowed, the answer to that is parking is not allowed. You don't say cars are not allowed, parking is not allowed. Because parking is singular, you need is allowed. Remove all options in which you have are. Is allowed on neither side, is allowed on either side. You already have a no here. So the streets are too narrow, they're pretty narrow, very narrow, excessively narrow. This word too tells you that they're excessively narrow, to an unwanted degree narrow. So, as a result of which, no parking of cars is allowed on either side of the road. You cannot say neither, because neither makes it double negative. Negative if negative is positive, thereby telling you that parking of cars is allowed on either side. So your answer should be no parking is allowed on either side. So either can mean both, either can also mean one between two. So you say either of my brothers can do it. It means both your brothers can do it. Or when you say either of my brothers is available, there it means one between those two brothers is available. So it depends on the context. Either can mean either, right? Either can mean both or one between two. Right, let's look at the next question. Ram felt very dash when he failed to score the qualifying marks in the entrance test. Pretty simple blank in terms of whether you need a positive word or negative word. Before you look at the options, look at what words you would use here. When is a good connector, telling you that when this happened, he failed to score. So when someone fails to score, you need a positive word or a negative word to describe their failings. You definitely need a negative word. Because you need a negative word here, rule out all options which are positive. Jubilant means excited, full of energy, enthusiasm, fun. You are happy. So you say the Indian crowd was jubilant after Sachin hit a six. So jubilant is incorrect. Thrilled also is positive. As you know, thrilled is excited, enthusiastic, full of energy, full of verve, etc. So you either have bored or gloomy. Bored is negative. However, the context is different. You're bored when you do not have anything exciting to do. Here it doesn't mention that Ram did not have anything exciting to do. On the other hand, what it means is Ram failed to score, which means he should feel sad, he should feel low, his spirits should be down. So we need a word which means that. And the word that means that is precisely gloomy. Because gloomy means sad and dull, having no energy. So the answer that best fits the context is gloomy. Even if you do not know the meaning of the word gloomy, you can rule out the others, because you cannot be bored when you fail to score the qualifying marks. You cannot be jubilant or thrilled because they were positive. Okay, so we have a pretty short passage. Let's read this and then come to the questions. Before that, let's see how many questions are based on this. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 questions. All right, let's get started. Look at the passage. We're going to read this together, and any difficult questions that we have, we shall try to, any difficult sentences that we have, we shall try to break them down into parts and then look at the questions. Before that, there are certain words here. One is hardship and the other is prompted. Let's see the meanings as and when we arrive at these words when we read the passage. It basically helps you to remember these words, because when the moment you come across them, you can immediately come to these questions. Hardship and prompted. Let's get started. Hunger is one of the indicators of the magnitude of social injustices. Magnitude means intensity, measure, or the weight, how much something is present, of social injustices that exist in the world. Its existence can be traced back to very many years. So the author says hunger is an indicator of how much social injustice is present in the world, and hunger has been present for many years now. The French Revolution in the 18th century was driven not only by demands for political freedom, but also by the lack of bread in Paris. So this sentence highlights the role of hunger in revolutions in the past. Food has been the cause and effect of many riots occurring whenever government policies caused severe economic hardship. So food, as a result, meaning lack of food here, has been the cause and effect of many riots. You might have heard the word riot before, where you have uncontrollable violence. People tend to fight with each other or against the government, occurring whenever government policies cause severe economic hardship. So whenever the government caused hardship, the word that we were looking for, economic hardship, economic meaning related to money, and clashed with the basic human right to food. Let's see what word can best replace hardship here. Look at the question on hardship. Which of the following is the synonym of hardship as used in the passage? So let's try to replace this with all the words that are given. We have difficulty, one of the options. Severe economic difficulty. So when you have difficulty, economic difficulty, when you do not have enough money, obviously there will be riots, right? So difficulty can be an answer. Let's look at the other options. Dilemma, on the other hand, means you do not know which choices to choose from. So you're stuck between two choices. That is when you have a dilemma. But here, you do not have a choice. You do not have money. You do not have money to buy food. Convenience is definitely wrong because it's positive. Comfort is definitely wrong because it's positive. Between difficulty and dilemma, which of these fits better in the context is what we should decide. Severe economic hardship. So when government policies leave you with no money, it is hardship. It is an economic difficulty. It's not a dilemma. It is not a situation in which you're stuck between two choices. So the answer should be difficulty, and clashed with the basic human right to food. All right. So your answer should be difficulty here. The other word we're looking for is prompted. Let's establish that as well as we go along. Tea was a non-edible food item that was used.
Guys, am I audible?
Yes, it is audible.
Great. We've done the questions. Some more questions, hence today's class is ending from here. We will continue the same courses from this question next class. And if you still have any doubt, you can even put the doubt in a group. I'll explain everything, don't worry. And this is the beginning. We'll try to go in deep. We still have 3 weeks before exam, 3 to 4 weeks. So don't panic, we'll make it. All the best, guys. We are here for you. I hope you will do your best and you win this kind of scholarship. Now I can see some Rwandese who joined this class, but it's okay. And you guys, if you feel like you want to join for the Rwandese also, it's okay. Whatever. All the best, guys. Then good night.